Hello, everybody. As Talina already said, I'm Michael Albrecht from Team Neusta. And first of all, I have to apologize. I missed all my advertisement slides. So I have not really some reports about the big company Team Neusta I'm working for. Anyway, I can tell you some words. We are in Bremen, settled there since 1992, and we have now over 1,500 and sub companies, and one part of the team Neusta is Neusta software development I'm working for. So we have over 400 employees and developers, and one big part is the PIMCore development, and we have started 2 years ago with PIMCore, and now we are gold partners, and also had a lot of several PIMCore projects. And I want to tell you here something which is really I would say very technical. It's really a design pattern in the best words. And of course, you can feel free to use this pattern wherever you want. It's open source, and it will be kept open source for the rest of the life of this pattern. So let me start. The name of the pattern is Converter and Populator. And the most important point for pattern is what is the intention. So when comes this pattern around, and I can tell you the intention is in some situations, I could say in very often situations, we have to transform PIMCore data objects into different worlds. Typical examples we have were the view objects, Elasticsearch engine objects, ERP imports, exports, things like that. And when we take all these PIMCore data objects, we want to transform them and give them a new shape, which is more nice for our customers. And we did that already in several PIMCore shops and website relaunches. I'll show you two examples where it was a little bit more complicated than a simple one-to-one transformation. And you see here two screens from our two PIMCore projects. One was the Bayer 04 fan shop, and the other one simply finished a few days ago. DSV, Deutsche Saatveredelung website relaunch. And in both cases, we had a lot of fun with the converter and populator pattern. And as I would say, it makes our work much easier, because in the Bayer 04 fan shop, we had what I would call a so-called multi-type conversion. So in this situation, you can imagine we had a lot of different products, like jerseys, for example. Let me maybe explain for the foreign people. Bayer 04 Leverkusen, of course, is a soccer team, in German Bundesliga, And so we had a lot of jerseys. We had vouchers there that you can buy other things. We had the participants to soccer school events for the kids, and of course also a lot of other merchandising articles. And we have modeled that with PIMCore with one single product type, one single product class, and we associated that product with several different product types. You can see here the product types with events, memberships, merchandising, and all the examples I've already mentioned. And of course, for all these different products, we had different product views, like for the merchandising article here, Brian the Lion, for example, to keep up your keys, and also for the voucher, a much more simplified view. And for the jerseys, it was a little bit more complicated, because you can select the size, the flocking, the leaves on your jersey as well. And also very complicated in comparison to the other views was the so-called soccer school view, where you can see the locations, the restrictions to the events itself. And and these are the different several views. So let me say, for each product type, we had a certain kind of view on our twig templates. And on the other side, we had in our DSV project a so-called single type conversion. So we had the same complex object structure, because we had 9 nations. Each one has its own site and its own subset of products. And the products there are separated in so-called cultures. The German words for it are Getreide, Mais, Raps, and so on. And these cultures contain several subcultures and in turn different varieties. And these varieties, or each of the variety, had over 50 attributes, and some of these attributes were so-called BSA criteria. BSA stands here for Bundessortenamt, which is a German part of the government, and the Bundessortenamt determines the correct values in scientific studies and published them, and therefore we have a metric in the range of 0 up to 9, which is used to measure the varieties, and all these properties also get their own textual interpretation for each value depending on the type of property, so if it's width or length or size or whatever. And we also modeled that with PIMCore, of course, with 7 different product classes. So we already made the decision to do different product classes because the differences were too big. And each of the class had, as I told you already, over 50 attributes. You can see here on the screen on the right side. And now I've heard a lot about classification store and also a lot about object bricks. Both didn't work for us. We had to manage these configuration with advanced many-to-many relations. And you see here advanced many-to-many relations with over 150 objects. And also for these varieties, we had different views. Some of the examples are here Activian Öko, and you see here the BSA criteria, also with the textual interpretation. You also see tables with checkboxes, tables with plus-minus values. We also had tables with normal texts, and we had so-called long texts. And of course, when you start to decide which variety is the best for you as a farmer, then you also want to compare them. So we had a comparison view which should have used the same attributes, the same view, and to make it easier to compare the up to 3 different varieties with each other. And we realized that with the several different types just by using one single sorted view. It's called sorted view because sort is the German word, and I've already introduced that we have done domain-driven design, so we tried to use the ubiquitous language from our customer. Everything is named in German, and it would be a horror if we would have started with translation until we went to the internationalization sites. So we started here, and you see the sorted view was a quite simple let me say data transfer object or plain ordinary PHP object, which has 2 main attributes here, the array of tables and the array of long text. And the table were a table view. I will show you later some more attributes of that. And we also had an array of long text view. So really quite simple. So how can we manage that to transform these different product types from PIMCore into this single sorted view? We have used the converter and populator pattern. And you see an example from the Bio 04 shop, the product view controller, which has been called by the user by a given URL like /product/123, would have called a product facade. The product facade is last but not least just a separation of the business and the presentation layer, as you can see. The product facade on its side called the product service to get the right product from PIMCore. And this product would not be returned to the product view controller to be put in the template. No, we have transformed or mapped it into the product view by using a product view converter. And this was the typical scenario for each of our data objects. So what we did here is multi-type conversion. One product type on PIMCore side and several product view types on the Twig side. And we have done that by several different view converters. And on the other side, in the single type conversion, we did several different product types with converting by one converter into one single sorted view. Okay, and now I show you a kind of sequence diagram to show how the view converter is working. So the public API is convert, and of course the parameter is the data object from PIMCore, and the result is a view. And first of all, we worked with the cache management. So when one of the objects have already been converted, then we didn't do it a second time. We just put it in the cache and read it from there again. And otherwise, we have to create a new product view. And this was an empty product view, and this product view will be filled by so-called view populators. So the view populators fill, like we say, like assembly line workers, step by step, the view with values based upon the source entity. This is what they are doing. And last but not least, we return the product view then. So I've already seen that some guys have written, is this like a mapper or transformer? Yes, I know that. These are, let me say, synonyms for that. But the interesting point is that we have here really a pattern using one core component, the product view converter, and several parts, the view populators, to separate. So what is the motivation to do it like this? First of all, we want to separate the different concerns of representing objects. So I'm not a friend of giving our front-end developers the PIM core objects and let them leave there alone with the advanced many-to-many object relations, because this is not quite simple to transform. And last but not least, we are also, in this way, uncoupled from external systems. So we can separate the type system from ERP or from the printing to our PIM core data objects. And we also want to, and this is a really interesting part, separate the transformation logic from the templates. Everyone who has already written Twig templates and tried to modelize the PIM core data objects in a way that they are visible on the screen, this is really a horror work. Also, when you can use Twig functions or some other techniques, it's not quite simple to do that. And last but not least, by using these populators, and these populators are really simple classes using setters and getters on both sides, we are making the transformation much more testable. Let me say, I'm really a fan of that, because I'm a test-driven developer, and this is why I'm using that pattern here. So we also keep a high cohesion of transforming attribute-wise by these populators, And now, if you're asking, okay, where can I use this pattern? I can tell you, use this pattern wherever you have to map a typed object from one universe to another. And the most well-known universe for us are PIM core entities or PIM core data objects. And when you think about PIM core data objects as your business entities, and there are some Symfony service around implementing the business logic, then at least there are Symfony controllers want to get access to these information, then you should think about the converter and populator pattern. And we have this situation very often. You see here in the core, our PIM core system, and around are different techniques like ERP, microservices, external databases, Elasticsearch engine, and of course, last but not least, the view itself. So what are the consequences to our pattern? First of all, transformation becomes, and this is, I would say, one of the most important points, a back-end development task, not a front-end development task anymore. So we can work with our front-end developers, design by contract. So we can, first of all, define what do we want to see, and then we will transform our data object into these views. And for setting specific attribute values, which could be sometimes a little bit more complicated, remember, we have worked with advanced many-to-many object relations. We can use the whole power of PHP programming, no more Twig functions anyway. And each populator can be implemented quite simple and test-driven. And last but not least, this pattern supports the open-close principle. So when you did the conversion by using a converter and populator, then you can stuff your conversion quite simple by adding a new populator by Symfony dependency injection. And what are our extensions for the future? First of all, I can tell you we will create a code generation bundle, and of course this will be published also in a few weeks, and I'm 100% sure it will be open source till the rest of its life. And we also try to generalize the table view and table row population from our last DSV project, to reuse that again maybe. And we also try to find a more generic polymorphic approach. This is also a little bit depending on the PHP features in the next versions. Maybe we see that PHP version 8 will help us in that way a little bit more. So if you have any questions, you can call me via Twitter, via my homepage. You can find the video as well. In a few days, I will publish it there. There is already a video which is much longer, about 1 hour, but it's done in German. Sorry for that. And my email address, and of course, you can now ask some questions. Sorry for my long call or session.
No problem. There is one question. I think your colleague Jakob already answered it, but maybe you have another answer. So is this basically DTO?
Yeah, this really basically DTO. It depends a little bit because last week I've tried the first time to connect in one of our internal Primcore projects the LDAP server, into the Primcore world. You know, there are a lot of big bundles for doing that. Of course, we have done it on our own to get some more experience with LDAP connection, and there they're also using an LDAP user mapper. And this user mapper is done, as I said, quite simple with one class. And of course, I would convert that into the converter and populator pattern to be more flexible. So last but not least, the idea is you have setters and getters on one side, especially the view side, to make it easier for the front-end developers, and you have to give them the right values. No more null value checks or things like that.
Okay, one other question. How did this affect the performance?
To be honest, it would be a lie if I would say it would have no effect to the performance. But here we are really talking, let me say about milliseconds. We done that in the Bayern 04 fan shop, where we had a lot of jerseys with a lot of variants of jerseys, and these jerseys also had relations to flockings and to leaves and things like that, and especially the cache management implemented by Jakob Dresen here in the chat, had helped a lot, because you do not have to convert it the same product again and again. So this could help, of course.
Okay. One last question, maybe. Why didn't you implement the different view logic in JS? I think JavaScript, probably. I don't know.
That's a good question. I just can answer that maybe this is not my main knowledge, or maybe I was not been able to do that. So it could also be an alternative. Maybe Jakob could help in that situation. I think he's a much more expert about JavaScripting, but for me, I'm just a developer, an object-oriented developer. So JavaScript is a little bit too high for me to use.
Okay, so I would end it here. And thank you, Michael, for your time and for your talk. And we will see you soon, or I will see you soon, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.